And then what ends up happening is some of the hardier plants and weed plants come in.
And we may still see smoke impacting our gardens in many ways.
Did you do a Google search or are you on Uber Eats?
Tell me all the details so I can report you to the police.
Charcoal is a rad soil amendment.
Yeah. Sounds like the ingredient list on gluten-free bread. Like, just so much crap. So the other day, Colin, Brad was looking at our lawn. We just finally got to it. It's just not looking healthy. You know, there's a lot of dry spots. We dog sat over the winter.
Okay.
So sunny spots, shady spots are all looking a little dead. What can we do to just give it a boost?
Okay. I recommend a 3-prong approach, okay? So what you want to do is, we have a new product in, and it's Scott's Soil Builder.
Wow.
Okay, it's amazing. This product has got humic acid, biochar, and leaf compost. Scott's built this so well. So the humic acid is going to boost water and nutrient retention. The leaf compost, microbial activity, we've talked about that, and biochar, we know we love that.
We love biochar.
Yeah, soil compaction.
Okay.
Okay, once that is down, you're gonna go with Scott's Quick and Thick lawn seed.
Okay.
I love this one. You said that the dog went everywhere, sun and shade. This is a sun and shade product.
Perfect.
Okay, so Scott's Quick and Thick, great lawn seed, get that down. And you're gonna follow it up. Step 3 on our 3-prong approach is Scott's Turf Builder. All 3 products put down with a Scott spreader. Your lawn will be up and running in no time, and Brad will have a big smile on his face.
That's so easy. Thanks, Colin. Find Scott's Lawn Products at your local home and garden retailer. Welcome back to the Helpful Gardeners podcast. Well, Colin, only you can prevent wildfires.
But I'm already busy enough.
Do you remember that from I think it was a commercial in the States?
Smokey the Bear.
Smokey the Bear.
That was, as far as I know, pre my North American time. I think they still use the commercials, but the big campaign, I've absolutely seen it.
Yeah. It's definitely stuck out in my childhood for sure. Today, when we're recording the podcast, it is a 10 on the air quality index due to forest fire smoke. It's kind of becoming like an every year occurrence, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Some years it's a lot worse than other years, and we'll kind of get into that. But yeah, thinking about wildfires and not only how they're impacting our community, but also impacting our garden, I think is the name of the game in today's episode.
One thing I've noticed 100% is but the apparent increase in severity and frequency. Because
Yes.
I remember years ago, I looked out of my bedroom window. Everything was brown.
Wow.
That hazy brown, and the sun was red in the sky. And it was like that. Remember like last year where we had the worst air condition on the planet and everything had that brown sepia filter?
Yeah.
So I had no idea. And I looked out my window and all I could smell was burning.
Wow.
And I looked around, and about 100 kilometers, 150 kilometers away from St. John, New Brunswick, there's a big nuclear power plant called Point Lepreau.
Yeah.
And I was like, Point Lepreau must have blown up.
Yeah.
And then I got up and I was like, well, I think I would have heard by now. And I listened to the radio, and it was forest fires in Quebec and northern New Brunswick, and the smoke had drifted down. Now, that was my first experience seeing it that bad. Didn't see it again the rest of the time I was in New Brunswick.
No.
But now, like you said, it seems like it's happening earlier, and it seems like it's every year.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a little deep dive on.
Of course you did.
Talking about because I've noticed it too, and I didn't know if it was just me, like if it was more frequent, or it was because I have a lot of connections to helicopter pilots, and of course that's one of the main. Being in forestry is a huge industry,
and it can also, to be fair, recency bias.
Yeah.
Right. We look at our past with kind of rose-colored glasses.
Sure. Yeah.
And I remember that one because it was very distinct. Maybe it was there all the time, and I don't remember it, but. Yeah. Certainly doesn't seem that way.
No. And taking a look in just like the past, like let's say 10 years in Alberta, back in the Fort McMurray fire. Do you remember that?
God.
2016.
Yeah. That was 2016?
Yeah.
Oh my.
I know. It's a long time ago. All the way, even with that fire, it was such a huge news event, and it created a lot of destruction. Still not a record-breaking year. Surprisingly.
Oh my God.
We actually had the most wildfires in when was it? 2023. Record-breaking area burned. 22,000 square kilometers, 1,000 wildfires in Alberta alone.
I think that was the year when we had the worst air quality.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like you couldn't see downtown from Rotary Park.
Yeah.
You couldn't see downtown.
No, not at all. It was so soupy.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 2023, across Canada, 6,000 wildfires, record-breaking 15 million hectares in 2023. That was probably the worst.
So basically, every year is... last year didn't, but every year is kind of setting the record or pushing for the record.
It was weird though, because in 2024 we had less, so 5.3 million
Most
hectares.
of it had burned down in 2023.
I mean, and that's actually a very valid point. Is how fast does the forest sort of recycle itself? Because from what I understand, it's like there's a bigger season every like 3 to 4 years.
But essentially, what happens is. Forest burns down, it's barren.
Yeah.
But that soil is very rich now, or becomes rich at the first year or two, maybe nothing. And then what ends up happening is some of the hardier plants and weed plants come in. They can live in the conditions. They start stabilizing the soil. They start filtering it. They start holding it together, locking it in. And then slowly but surely other plants return. And then the bigger and trickier the plants, they come later. Mm-hmm. And then what ends up happening is your bigger trees go, they cast the canopy, they shade out all of the other ones, and hey presto, 15, 20, 25 years, you have a new forest.
Yeah. And then for it all to happen again, sort of thing.
Exactly.
And from what I understand, there are some species of tree that require heat in order to reproduce.
Yeah, and there's, there are certain. I had a friend, Ryan, and Ryan had a summer job. I think he did it for 2 years, working with the Quebec government as part of their controlled forestry burn.
Cool.
So they would take an area and they would. The amount of time they would plan it to burn for, and don't ask me the technical questions, I don't know.
That's fair.
But basically what he said is they would do it because there were some trees that were very fast growing and aggressive. It would knock them back and then allow the hardwood trees that were slower and more passive, they could take the burn, it would propagate more of those, and then the other trees would still come back, and that's why they were doing it.
Ooh, strategy forests.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's about like literally everything. The other one, I dialed it back because I know too much. That one, I'm like, I'm done.
No, but that's so cool how there's like this life cycle of a forest, and how every year is going to be different when it comes to wildfires and everything. Mm-hmm. And right now we have a lot going on in like northwestern Alberta. Of course, BC is always top of mind when we're talking about wildfires. I was looking into the top causes of wildfires. Obviously, humans are the top, and I think will be forever.
We're number one. Kind of rings hollow this time.
I know, right? We don't want to be number one. Yeah. So like unattended campfires, embers can easily escape. Burning debris, agricultural burning. I have actually seen a grass fire get sparked from that. So that can absolutely happen. Equipment, vehicle use, malfunctions. So sparks from machinery, exhaust systems, catalytic converters, power lines, arson.
Yep.
That can absolutely be.
And another one is not as common now, definitely back in the day, flicked cigarettes.
Yes.
Out of the car window.
Yep. Discarded cigarettes, fireworks, children playing with fire.
Fireworks.
Fireworks, yes.
Yeah, of course.
And surprisingly, trains.
Did you, wait, sorry. Did you say children playing with fire?
Yeah, arson.
Yeah, well.
I mean, children playing with matches or whatever, like.
You know what? Well. When I was a kid, I may or may not have started a massive grass fire in England playing with matches.
Tell me all the details so I can report you to the police.
My friend Mike and I, we found this field and it was very overgrown and we had matches because we were no good nicks. And we thought it would be funny to set some grass on fire. And it was funny for about, I want to say 87 seconds until the wind caught it.
Where was Smokey the Bear at that time?
It's England. We're meant to just be permanently damp and wet. And this grass, oh my God, it took off. And then the fire department rolled up and they took care of it.
Yeah.
And we claimed no credit. I know the word should probably be responsibility, but it sounds like you're guilty. But yeah.
So
the thing is, it was alarming. So England is wet.
Yeah.
A lot of the grass was still green, and there was some tufts, and we were setting them on fire. We were striking matches. We were probably 12.
Yeah.
We genuinely meant no harm.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that all of those reasons are definitely contributing to, like, I think the U.S. is like 85% of their fires are all human started, you know, and it's literally that whole list of all of the things that can happen.
What in nature, like nothing man-made.
Yeah.
What in nature is going to start a fire? Lightning?
So that is it. Lightning strikes, primary natural cause of wildfires. Less frequent, obviously. However, they are probably the most destructive because they can happen in remote locations, which can be very hard for firefighters to get to.
Arguably, wherever it was started by man, there's accessibility for humans to go put that out.
Right.
Lightning strike happens in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly. So when you hear...
And that can very fast turn into an uncontrolled...
And that's probably, you know, when you hear about those huge wildfires, that's likely the cause of those bigger events, right? So those are just some of the top causes of wildfires.
Wild. Okay, interesting,
Okay, so here's another thing. I was looking into the country that has the most wildfires. Obviously, Canada, we're it.
Yeah.
You know, Russia is another one.
I might have said Russia more than Canada.
Yeah.
Simply because of the size of the two countries.
Right, yeah.
It just seems like it wouldn't be top of mind for them, where here we mobilize, we ask for help from our neighbors. If BC need help and we can do it, we'll help them. BC will help us.
Yeah, and our insurance companies.
Yeah, it doesn't...
a lot of that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Russia maybe have that as much.
Yeah, and I mean, America's also up there as well. I mean, California, we were hearing about that, right? So
the LA fires this year, I think it was.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like, those are sort of like the main areas where you're going to find it. I mean, you think about the top forested areas in the world and you would think about like Brazil, but Brazil's a rainforest. Like, it's not that dry country like we have up here in Canada, right?
Well, the Australian brush fires from a few years ago.
Yeah, there's another one. And then that's the other thing, is that they're a lot smaller. So I was looking into places like Greece or, areas that are drier, but they're smaller fires. I mean, the Australia one was huge, absolutely, and newsworthy, but year over year, you know, I think that the fires are a lot smaller and easier to contain.
Well, exactly. They don't have like Europe. You rarely hear about other things in Europe, of course.
Yeah.
You rarely hear about forest fires.
Yeah.
They chopped most of their forests down in the Industrial Revolution. You go to some English forests and you're like, really, this is a forest? Mm-hmm. It looks more like a nature preserve. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it kind of is.
Yeah.
It kind of is. Sure. It kind of has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I also was looking into Africa as a continent. So what's interesting about Africa is it has the largest share of area burned globally every year, but it's due to agricultural burning in savannas and grasslands. So they intentionally set fires for land management. You know what's interesting, though? I was looking at the current wildfire situation in Alberta. It's just in like the forested areas. I was curious on like how the prairie land would deal with that. But
prairie fire... Correct me if I'm wrong here, because again, I don't know. It's certainly not my area of expertise. I know a little about it. But as far as I understand, prairie fires, the reason why they're not as newsworthy or as big is they're quicker, because a tree burns for a lot longer than a bunch of grass.
Right.
And that they tend to be either much earlier in the season if it has been a particularly dry winter and a lot of the dead thatch is up. But a lot of times, winter, spring, it's very wet from the snow melt. The summer, it's too green to burn. So it's normally end of summer, August, when it's been scorching hot, everything has gone dormant.
Yeah.
That is when you can see them. There's actually a bird, but it's called the firehawk.
Oh.
And it'll actually take burning things and drop them into other forests because it scatters all of the animals and then they get to hunt.
They are smart.
Evil little.
That's so cool, though.
I'm like, I could see an animal doing that because it scares the prey out. But my flip side on why I want to know more about it is most animals are inherently terrified of fire.
Yeah.
They have no control over it. So for a bird to pick something up that's burning, seems very counterintuitive to me.
It does, doesn't it? Maybe they're...
But animals adapt.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say they're learning how to...
Exactly. So I don't know. Like, it definitely requires... Take that for exactly what it's worth, that I just blurted it out and you're watching it on probably a social media or a podcast thing. I am putting no weight behind it other than it was a cool thing I heard about and it was nature.
Oh, that's cool. Maybe if you know anything about the firehawk, let us know.
It's a cool name. I'm going to get it air painted on my eye rock. Firehawk. It'll be me with a red mohawk.
Like the Top Gun.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine Firehawk is your name.
That's my name, not yours.
So that is sort of like wildfires out in our community. So we need to be aware that they're happening, and need to be aware of the kind of impact that they can bring to our own gardens. If we are lucky enough to not be in the path of a wildfire, then we may still see smoke impacting our gardens in many ways. And I actually looked up a few of the things that you can be doing during a smoke event to prioritize your safety and your garden. And the first one is really reevaluating any garden work that you're doing. So make sure you're going online and checking that air quality index. If it's poor, limit your outdoor time. If you're landscaping and that's your bread and butter, then you have to, right?
Yep.
But I almost find I remember when, during COVID and we were wearing masks and just like how hard it was to work wearing a mask.
Especially when the air is already stifling.
Exactly.
It's hot. There's particles, so you're not breathing it properly.
Yeah.
You got a mask on. It's not pleasant,
I'm
sure.
No. So it's almost like one of those things where just maybe just like put it on pause for a little bit, right? Watering deeply. So obviously smoke can cause plants to experience a lot of stress. There's less light. Even this morning, we noticed the light was really struggling to get through the smoke. So making sure that they're well hydrated. So water deeply at soil level. If you're spraying over top, less likely that the roots are going to get as much of that water.
Water slow and low.
Water slow and low. I like that. And also container plants needing a bit more watering, keeping that in mind, right? Gentle rinsing. So if we talked about this on a previous episode, didn't we? How if ash is visibly accumulating on your plant leaves, a gentle rinse with the hose can be beneficial. A soft spray, obviously. Do you ever do that thing where you like turn on the garden hose, but you forget which setting you had it on and you're at a container plant and you just go, psst.
Yeah, and you the last time you had it, so my hose almost reaches everything, and I don't do a lot of watering with my hose. I use my hose for watering cans.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes if I'm in a mad rush, the front bed, I can hit it all with the hose, but I've got to have it on center and I got to be really stretched out. I'll try and get a video. It's pretty funny. So normally I do it on shower.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite setting, shower. But I do it on center and then I put the hose down. Exactly that. So it's happened to me so many times now. I don't point my hose at the plants. I point it at the grass and then I go, oh, because
that's smart.
I've damaged, like I've blown flowers and fruit off of plants before. I'm like, oh, look at my tomatoes.
So point it away first and then go and do it.
Or you damage the roots because you're watering low and slow and you have it down and you shoot that direct.
Yeah.
Just aerating my roots.
They don't need it. Yeah, they do. So avoid that high pressure spraying. But like overall, that helps to remove any particulate matter that can block the stomata and reduce photosynthesis. Because what is that stat again that we like to bring up?
I think it was like something like heavy smoke from the filtered light to the ash accumulation can drop photosynthesis by 70%.
Oh, it's like so much, right?
I mean, you've just taken a full sun plant and turned it into shade.
Yeah, true enough, hey?
Like you've basically moved your full sun plant into shade.
Yeah.
At that point, if you've limited 70% of the photosynthesis.
Yeah, and especially over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Sometimes smoke events can last up to a week.
And then, I mean, think about what that, the flip side of that as well is think about the damage that's doing to your shade plants. Mm-hmm. They're already surviving on minimal light. Now, granted, that's the conditions they want.
Right.
But you've just dropped that by 70%.
Yeah.
it's a big number.
It can absolutely have an impact. Considering mulch can be fun too. So adding a layer of mulch around your plants can protect the soil from absorbing some of those airborne chemicals and help to retain moisture. I don't think you need to necessarily move things if it's like a 5 on the air quality index.
I've never brought my plants inside.
Not even your vegetable ones?
Not once. Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. The only plant I will bring inside after I've planted it, not talking about frost. We're talking now we're out of frost season. Everything is safe.
Yeah.
The only plant I will bring inside, and the only reason I will do it, would be my basil. If we're going to get prolonged rain or cooler.
Okay.
So if we're like that icy cold rain that's going to fall for 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, I may as well just go and rip my basil out myself. If I can, I bring it inside to protect it. Other than that, everything's on its own. Yeah,
because that's something that I thought about was, can smoke impact the taste of herbs and vegetables, like especially the soft skinned? Because I would imagine...
Ooh, naturally smoked cucumber.
Hi, would you like a smoked tomato sandwich?
You know what? I would. I'll have it with my toast sandwich.
I just did like a quick Google search. It said that...
on smoked tomato sandwiches?
Hold on. Smoked...
Did you do a Google search or are you on Uber Eats?
Hold on. Smoky tomato and mayonnaise. I don't think that's the same thing. It sounds delicious. It sounds delicious. But it says that they could be more susceptible to absorbing some of those smoky compounds, especially if ash settles heavily on them.
I mean, we... How many times... Okay, particularly you right now. You're what, a month away from a little baby coming out?
Yeah.
What do they always say? What you put into your body goes into the baby. Yeah. Whatever that plant is breathing in, what fertilizers it's taking in, has to go into the fruit.
Totally.
It must have been that day a couple of years ago. I remember Mum obviously could not go outside.
Yeah.
Mum has lung conditions. So they had AC, everything had the HEPA filters, every window, door closed. And I went over to make sure Mum was doing okay. I drove over. I walked in there. Nothing had been open. And I walked in and Mum said, "You smell like a campfire."
Oh.
Just from being outside.
Wow.
So my clothes had picked it up. It was on my skin. It's got to get into the plants.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's got to get into the groundwater.
It sounds like, obviously, washing is crucial. So when you do harvest, so say we still have forest fire smoke towards harvest season, washing them can help with the outside. Peeling vegetables, I mean, carrots, potatoes, those ones underground are kind of going to be less susceptible. But peeling it might also help. And removing outer leaves for like the leafy, like say you're doing like an iceberg lettuce and removing some of the outer leaves and just keeping the middle parts, that can also help.
Okay. I still want to, I really want to smoke tomatoes. Smoking mayo and some tomato.
Why hasn't someone thought of this for a restaurant? The smoky vegetable or something.
That's yet another helpful gardener's patented.
Here's something that I thought, had been mentioned online, but I wanted to get your take on it. What about avoiding fertilizing? Because plants are already stressed. Is introducing fertilizing going to help them or hinder them?
If a plant is heavily stressed because heavy drought conditions and we're bringing it back or transplanting or whatnot, we tend to stabilize it before we fertilize it because normally the roots are damaged or the foliage is so damaged.
Right.
But my plant is relatively healthy. It is being affected by outdoor concerns. If it's already on a fertilizer program, I feel everybody around you starts getting sick. You're like, oh, I'm going to increase my supplements. I'm going to eat some more fruits and vegetables. I'm going to quickly take care of myself right now.
Yeah.
That's where if you're already sick and you start taking that, well, it's a bit too late. So if your plant is heavily shocked, again, like transplant damage, you may give it a slow release transplant fertilizer, but before you're giving it a root booster, you're trying to bring it back up.
Right.
We're going to assume that all of our plants are healthy right now. Stopping fertilizing is not going to be the answer.
Yeah. Okay.
They're going to need all of that strength to start fighting it off.
And with that too, I would also say deadheading is still super important. 100%. Making sure that the plants are clean. I think the name of the game, and it was almost like our conversation with Shelley and lawn care, is that the best way to protect your plants from stress like smoke events is to make sure it's as healthy as possible.
Exactly.
So I love what you said, fertilizing, and also making sure that you're deadheading, weeding, doing all of the things to make sure that your plant is just as strong as possible.
actively live heading and getting ahead of it allows a plant to retain some energy. If it's particularly bad and you really want to do it, cut all the heads off.
Yeah.
It will, if it's an annual, maybe not your perennials, but your annuals will absolutely put out new buds.
Yeah.
It'll take all of that energy into roots. Again, I've never done it. I've never seen the need. My plants are fine, but absolutely stay up on watering. You already touched on that. Fertilizing, deadheading.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd say get out and weed. Mm-hmm. You don't need something else robbing it. But I really liked what you said. I want to go back to that because that is such a valid point. Limit your activities. Mm-hmm. If you find weeding easy, cathartic, you sit down, you've got your little trowel, you pop a weed, and away you go. Go ahead, do some weeding. Anything that is going to induce heavy or forced breathing, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. Wait a day, wait a week.
Leave it out.
Yep. And all the times that nature burns.
Yeah.
It's been burning since mankind had evolved. Okay, when we were still little cells swimming around, there were forest fires happening.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that it is part of a cycle of nature, and I'm going to shout it out because I think it's a product that most people don't use. Charcoal is amazing. The reason why oftentimes after a prairie fire or a forest fire, that new forest does look so lush. It does look so green. The prairie... Remember when Nose Hill burned a few years ago, and when it came back, how everybody was like commenting how green, emerald green, because of that charcoal in the soil.
Yeah.
It is absolutely incredible stuff. That's why those burns, there is a reason for them. Nature is there. So if you're looking to take, maybe something away and be like, oh my God, it's not all like doom and gloom. Charcoal is a rad soil amendment.
Yeah.
Oh, can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
I'm totally going to digress. This has nothing to do with forest fires. I don't think I brought it up before. This year, I was mending one of my beds. It was the last one I planted. And you know how everybody sends me samples?
Yeah.
Okay, and I have, like normally during booking season, you can't even get into my office for samples and whatnot. And we look at all of them and we test and we play with and whatnot. And some we decide to carry and others aren't for us. And that's fine. Well, I gathered them all up from the last 2 years because I didn't do anything last year. And I had a bed left. I put every...
You put every amendment in it?
Every single...
Oh my gosh.
Every single amendment I had went into this bed. There was really... And the soil was already great because I'd amended it 2 years ago. I didn't do anything last year, but it just sat fallow.
Oh my gosh.
So my soil quality was, I'd say, pretty good. If it had been a regular, it would have had the usual charcoal, can of maize, coconut coir and compost. Everything. Anything that I had a little bit left of. So I had some compost in the garage and they were like half bags. They went in.
Oh my gosh.
They went in. Peat moss went in. Bone meal, blood meal, sheep wool, rabbit droppings, inoculants, biostimulants.
Oh my gosh, it's like steroids.
Yeah,
like you just gave it everything.
I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea. But I was like, I'm always so careful and so methodical. I'm going to put this in, maybe some worm castings, right? And I was looking at it and I was like, nope.
You should do a soil test.
Oh my God.
I just want to know. What it would come up back with.
What I did grow in that soil, specifically because there was a lot of nitrogen in it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Simply because of, I was reading what I was putting in. I wasn't just throwing it in blind. And it did seem like it was going to be a high nitrogen soil. So I put all my leafy greens in there.
Oh.
I did kale, 2 types of lettuce, and I did my Brussels sprouts. So it'll be interesting to see how supercharged they are.
Just imagine they start coming up and they're alive.
Thanks, buddy. But I've never done it before, and I got to tell you, it was kind of fun. It was like a little bit of like Gardener Mad Scientist.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, we'll have to keep up on that because I'm very curious.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of gardeners are always really nervous about overdoing the amendments because they're like, well, I don't want to play with the balance too much. What if I overdo it and kill everything? But if this works, then you will have proven that you can never do too much.
Yeah, and coir, peat moss, blood meal, bone meal, 2 different types of compost, steer manure, rabbit droppings, biostimulants, inoculants.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it was ridiculous.
That sounds like the ingredient list on gluten-free bread. Like... Just so much crap.
stimulants, 2 types of coconut coir. Oh my God,
I'm sure it's the same in vegan food too. Like probably just so much stuff.
yeah.
Anyway,
Sorry, that was a total digression, but there we go.
that does wrap us up for this week's episode. So let us know what you're doing to kind of cope with the wildfire smoke this season. Stay safe as always. Make sure your garden is staying nice and healthy. And we will talk to you all next week on the Helpful Gardeners podcast.
Bye, everyone. Hey everybody, Colin here with the Helpful Gardeners podcast, talking about the Yard Smart program with the City of Calgary. An amazing initiative they came up with, partnered with the Calgary Horticultural Society, and they've provided a ton of resources. In my hand, I'm holding Yard Smart catalogs. There's Yard Smart Basics, native wildflowers, one we're really passionate about, trees and shrubs. We have perennials, and there's so much more. Designing your yard for sun, shade, all kinds of resources. This is such a fantastic initiative about water-wise gardening and helping you get a perfectly beautiful garden in a Calgary environment. So much information. Visit calgary.ca/yardsmart or the Calgary Horticultural Society, or go to your local independent garden centre and get some literature. It'll be well worth it.